Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. We would like to thank everyone who joined us on our live stream of committee last night, and as promised, we have some information to share with you.
We are also very humbled to let you know that we have been in direct contact with Ritika Dutt and Amir Moravej, who are the courageous and patriotic whistleblowers and founders of Botler AI.
These two young Canadians give us hope for Canada's future because they chose to take a stand against a systemically corrupt government. They chose to risk their company in order to fight for their principles and kept their integrity intact.
Because of their courage and conviction, some of the information they have shared with us, we are now about to share with you for the first time. You have read about some of these documents in the Globe and Mail, heard about them in committee, or our channel where we reported on what we had gathered from an outsider's perspective. However, please note that the opinions that we are sharing are those of Northern Perspective and do not necessarily reflect those of Botler.
But now we begin to take a look inside what happened with Botler and slowly start to unravel the web of crime, blackmail, scandals, and accusations within the Canada Border Services Agency, or CBSA.
Christian Firth has been at the center of this scandal for almost a year, as he was the one working with Botler on their pilot project that began in the fall of 2019. But when does this story actually begin?
To answer that, we need to go back to 2008, when a staffing company hired on a young aspiring recruiter named Christian Firth as a resource manager and account executive.
Christian, like many staffing recruiters, would have been trying to solicit new clients via email, cold calls, and other resources made available to them. Using these methods, a chance phone call put him in touch with a young Cameron McDonald, who was working as a senior project officer at the time for Correctional Services Canada.
When I first started as a junior sales in 2009, we were encouraged by our VPs to use GEDS, which is the Government Electronic Directory, to make cold calls and get meetings and try and identify opportunities within organizations. Mr. McDonald picked up the phone in 2009, and I've been having meetings from then until present day.
Christian states that he's known Cameron since 2009 and bragged to Botler that he'd, quote, been with him his whole career in government, end quote. This relationship would eventually culminate in the ArriveScam scandal, where Botler was allegedly paid from ArriveScam project funds, and the subcontracting firms Dalian, Coradix, and GC Strategies were taking their cut from the Canadian taxpayer. Now remember, Dalian and Coradix are two legally separate companies that operate out of the same building, using the same office, sharing the same staff, and even sharing the same fax number. That alone raises an eyebrow. But there is more here than meets the eye.
Colin Wood, who is the president of Coradix, tried to downplay that relationship recently at committee.
GC Strategies is a subcontractor that we occasionally work with, and we worked with them on the Botler AI task authorization.
Seems like an innocent and infrequent business relationship.
Yep.
Purely professional.
Of course.
Nothing to see here.
Nope, nothing.
Unless there is. You see, when we hear about GC Strategies, it's mainly Christian Firth that we hear associated with that name, and on occasion his partner, Darren Anthony.
However, there used to be a third partner, and his name was Caleb White. How do we know that?
Because in 2015, the Ottawa Business Journal ran a story on this up-and-coming organization.
When Darren Anthony, Christian Firth, and Caleb White met up for beers after work one day in the spring of 2015, it was more than just a casual get-together for the former colleagues in the IT consulting industry. It was the beginning of what's turned into one of Ottawa's most dramatic business growth stories of the past 3 years. The three friends got to talking about how IT consultancies tended to fit into certain boxes. Some were good at staffing projects quickly and cost-effectively. Others were boutique-style firms focused on specific areas of expertise. And that turned into GC Strategies. But the article stated that they met up for beers after work. What did that mean? How did they become friends? Well, in 2015, Christian Firth was still working for Veritac that had recently been acquired by another company called Experis. Darren and Caleb were working for another staffing firm, I4C Consulting.
But that's not where they met. See, a few years earlier, between 2008 and 2010, they all worked together at Veritac. Okay, so what, you might say? Well, remember how Colin Wood said that Cordex and Dalian occasionally do business with GC Strategies? Well, that prompted us to ask, how did they end up meeting the fellows from GC Strategies?
It turns out that Colin Wood, Christian Firth, Caleb White, and Darren Anthony all shared something in common. Colin also worked at Veritac with all three of these guys between 2008 and 2010. In addition to that, Colin Wood also worked at I4C Consulting. While at I4C Consulting, Darren and Colin met a gentleman by the name of Tony Carmancio. Why is this relevant? Because Tony is now the Chief Executive Officer at Corradix, currently working with Colin Wood.
So where's Caleb White? Well, that's an interesting question. Caleb White is currently the Chief Operating Officer at a company called Climate Engine. And the reason that is interesting is because he has wiped his history with GC Strategies off of his job history. We don't know why, but it does say something that you would leave a company that you helped to build and then erase the history of ever working for that company.
So we have Corradix/Dalian and GC Strategies that now have serious allegations levied against them, whom the major players all admitting the fact that they've known each other for years and now just happen to be caught up in a criminal investigation regarding a contract they all shared with a government insider that Christian has known for over a decade. Coincidence? Well, the evidence says no.
So you now have all of that context, which is very interesting to us and sheds a whole other light on this entire scandal. We are going to turn to the period when Botler levied its first complaint to the CBSA. If you watched our live stream of Mr. McDonald and Mr. Utano, you will note two things that they kept repeating. First, the Botler project was in fact not a pilot, but a feasibility study. And second, that the email that Botler referred to in their testimony made no allegations of misconduct. Cameron McDonald repeatedly stated that this was not a pilot and that the Botler team was basically exploiting this contract to get rich.
When the Crown has a contract with anybody, there's a task authorization. I've provided it in my package, and I think it's really important for members to understand this. What Botler did, the contract was for a feasibility study in 6 parts. So in other words, we're paying for somebody to refurbish the kitchen. They went out back and built a swimming pool and a jungle gym and a garage and wanted to charge the federal government hundreds of thousands of dollars for doing it. The Crown wouldn't pay for that. The Crown pays for what's in the contract. And if people went through the ATIP and watched all and read all the documents, they would see it says a discovery plan, a feasibility study, a fit gap analysis report, a pilot plan and metrics, and an executive summary. Nowhere in there does it say a pilot.
So according to McDonald, this was never a pilot, just a feasibility study. And CBSA never regarded this as anything more. If that's the case, then I would love for him to explain this email from a manager of prototype design and deployment who works for the CBSA. Hi Amir, this is to inform you that the CSBA is requesting to put on hold current project activities until October 4th. That was their error, not mine. As previously discussed, there will be new resource joining in the coming weeks to work on the pilot project with us. As such, we will be reviewing the current SOW, which stands for Statement of Work, in full, including the overall project plan so that Botler will move forward in the development of the platform in an efficient manner. Please know that before CBSA finalize the SOW and revised project plan, Botler will have the opportunity to review and provide input before formalizing everything. Please do not hesitate to contact us should you have any questions or concerns. Thanks, redacted, Manager Prototype Designs and Deployment Division. This email clearly states that this is a pilot project, and therefore the CBSA understood it to be a pilot project. The title of the person in question is Manager for Prototype Design and Deployment, for goodness sake. This equivocally contradicts Cameron McDonald's testimony and attempt to smear the good names of Botler and discredit them as whistleblowers. Botler acknowledged the email stating, quote, "That sounds great, looking forward to it, cheers," end quote.
When it comes to Mr. Utano's contention that what sounded like a simple email contained no allegation, he will also have some reconciling to do, as Cameron McDonald's assumption that this email was not provided to committee was entirely inaccurate. And you get to see it for the first time. You see, Botler had completed 2 of the 6 deliverables related to the statement of work by this point, which Coradix billed the government for on June 25th, 2021. Yet Botler had not received payment as of September 27th. Coradix received payment from the government on July 22nd. So why had Botler not been paid that money?
After Botler's finance team notified them of the repeated attempts by them to get a payment and were receiving no responses back, Ritika and Amir decided to take action as this arrangement with these other contracting companies was not working. As a result, Botler contacted Tony Utano to advise him of their concerns.
I wish I was reconnecting under better circumstances. Due to ongoing issues with the supplier Dalian Enterprises Inc. in joint venture with Coradix Technology Consulting Limited and their subcontractor GC Strategies Incorporated, Botler AI no longer feels comfortable working or associating with any of the above-mentioned parties in any capacity moving forward. We were approached by Christian Firth of GC Strategies in early November 2019, who informed us that his client, the CBSA, asked him to reach out to us regarding starting a proof of concept. After confirming that GCS did have business with the agency on buy and sell, Botler began initial groundwork and monetary investment for the project from November 2019 onward. Just so everybody knows, Buy and Sell is a government website where vendors are posted and contracts can be awarded. The contract for the project was finalized between the agency and Dalian in January of 2021 and has been riddled with issues that have been flagged repeatedly by both Botler's team as well as teams within the CBSA since. From the outset in 2019, we were informed that GCS would be the supplier of the vehicle, would act as the intermediary between Botler and the agency, for which they would charge an additional percentage fee on top of our quoted fees of $350,000 plus applicable taxes for the proof of concept pilot. In late 2020, GCS informed us that the contract would have to pass through another company that he knew. After repeated requests, we finally received the attached email entitled FYI from GCS that the value of Botler's contract had been cut by, it states $16,000, but it's actually $14,000, to $336,000 with no explanation provided, as well as the agreement between GCS and Dalian, also attached. At no point were we consulted by either Dalian or GCS regarding the terms or any aspect of this contract, and we never provided our consent to the existing terms, which don't even specify our company's name. All of the deliverables and dates specified have been arbitrarily assigned without consultation with Botler. This has already caused headaches and wasted unnecessary time for both the CBSA and Botler's teams. CBSA's HR project liaison has also raised concerns over the contracting. As we complete the 9th month of formal work, Botler has yet to be paid a cent, whereas Coradix received the first payment for Botler's work 67 days ago, and have submitted another invoice for payment since. Both GCS and Coradix have tried to pass Botler's invoice on to the other party and are non-responsive to follow-up. Please find the attached respective email threads. Since this January, Christian Firth has repeatedly stated that his contract is zero margin for GC Strategies and is unresponsive to payment notices or follow-ups from my team. Amir repeatedly raised the non-payment issue, with Redacted, who has gone out of her way to assist in her capacity, including providing confirmation of this payment CBSA made for the first Botler milestone to Curatics on July 22nd. She has also confirmed that GCS has no involvement with the contract from the CBSA's perspective, raising more questions about why invoicing must pass through parties not related to the CBSA contract. Following this, we reached out to Redacted, the Dalian Cordex representative and signing authority for the project, and requested to set up a meeting. He responded stating that he had, quote, some important client meetings, quote, to schedule first, then failed to ever follow up. Though they have no problem submitting invoices to CBSA and getting paid for Botler and the agency's work. Botler does not have any legal or signed agreements with Dalian, Cordex, or GCS for this or any project or assignment. The only record that we have for this project is a letter that we had to request from Curatics attached in order to apply for financing from RBC to continue investment into the project and not hamper the great progress our teams have been gaining while we waited for payment. Due to these ongoing issues with just the first invoice and the explicit admissions of Curatics and GCS lack of interest in this project, we will no longer be able to work with either party in any capacity moving forward in order to avoid further issues and delays. As no payment has been provided to Botler AI to date, we have immediately voided both existing invoices issued to GCS for milestones 1 and 2 completed by Botler. Please find the original and void invoices attached. We will also not accept any future payments from either party, as we do not want any of the numerous existing issues to be associated with this project or any potential future ATIP requests.
Payment and contract-related issues aside, the actual work conducted by both Botler and CBSA's teams have been going really well and steadily gaining momentum. Everyone is pouring their heart and soul into making this a success because they see the bigger picture of how critical this work is. Over the years, Botler's initiatives have received a lot of attention and media visibility, and I've personally briefed multiple federal ministers about this current work, which the Government of Canada has publicly acknowledged their support for. Both of our teams have been so excited for the potential this project brings, particularly the CBSA's pioneering role in setting a new precedent with this initiative. Given that this is a project aimed at combating misconduct and already has so many eyes on it, it just does not make sense to move forward with the current structure and red flags or risk jeopardizing this project in any capacity. At the moment, CBSA's HR has requested to put a temporary pause on activities as they finalize the new team that they're putting together for this project. With this in mind, I believe this could be a great time to revisit and clean up the project's contract and existing issues while incorporating HR's direct feedback and requests into key consideration like the SOW, deliverables, and timelines. To date, we have been continuing our work with the CBSA purely on good faith. Moving forward on our end, Botler is happy to work with any of the current CBSA suppliers that you may believe will understand the bigger picture and are willing to enter into a clean and structured agreement with Botler so we can all avoid unnecessary future issues. If there is anything we can do to help facilitate this, please let us know. Happy to jump on a call or set up a meeting to discuss at your convenience. We'll also be in Ottawa on Monday the 4th of October for a briefing with Justice in the afternoon. Our morning is wide open that day if you would like to catch up in person. Smiley face. This sure sounds like a whole lot of problems and concerns with the contract to us. One might go so far as to say allegations.
A day later, an email was sent by Diane Daly to rectify the payment issue. Hello everyone. I spoke with GC Strategies. Let me be very, very, very clear. When work is delivered to Canada as outlined under Section 34 of the FAA and payment therein to the contractor, payment is made to the supplier. Canada has been very prompt and diligent in payment for services rendered by Botler. As well, we are committed to ensuring all payments to subcontractors are raised with the supplier holding the contract to ensure that they are also paid fairly. There has been, according to notification from Botler, a holdup in payment. Therefore, this must be rectified immediately. Dalian has been paid. Dalian to confirm within the next hour that Botler is to be paid. GC Strategies will be communicating what form is required for the payment. I will expect confirmation of this by 1:03 p.m. no later. I am not happy about this. It is completely unacceptable. Diane Daly.
Botler responded to that email. Good afternoon, Diane. Thank you so much for your prompt action and response. It is much appreciated. Please accept my sincerest apologies for all this inconvenience to yourself and the CBSA. You have all been nothing short of amazing to work with, and I am so sorry that it had to come to this. If possible, we would prefer to proceed with a brand new contract for the remainder of the project. This will allow us to ensure that all the legal checkboxes are clearly covered and also give the respective CBSA teams on the project the chance to specify key milestones and reflect their actual requirements. As the CBSA has already released the first tranche of payments to Coradex/Dalian/GCS, we can settle the outstanding invoices with them and close up that relationship. I'll keep you posted when we have an update on that front. Thanks again, smiley face. This seems to be what Anthony Utano is referring to when he said that Botler thanked CBSA and considered the matter resolved. Except he's omitting the entire section where Botler is describing serious problems and concerns in working with those other companies. Diane responds again, stating that if Botler wants another contract, they will need to work with the CBSA HR department to create a contract. Bear in mind, the project is still in a paused state from the email on September 14th.
Clearly, they are trying to get CBSA to exit the current structure between CBSA, Coradex/Dalian, GC Strategies, and Botler so that it changes to just CBSA and Botler, which is the same arrangement Botler had previously when working with the Department of Justice. This should have been a reasonable request.
In response to that, Anthony Utano sent an email that sounded optimistic. Thank you, Diane, and redacted. Hello, Ritika. Let's have a follow-up meeting first when you are in town next week. Understand the frustration and apologies for this. Looking forward to the long overdue meeting. Trust all is well with you and team. Looping in, redacted, to find a time frame that will work. My best, Tony. This sounds like a reasonable email. However, something was wrong. Antonio was supposed to do something a day prior. Something that is outlined in a government policy to handle these situations. He was supposed to report this email from Botler to his superiors. He didn't.